We'll see the emergence of a new international order.
The beginning of a new international order.
Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order, and instead it looks like we got a lot of disorder.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Your world is not what it seems. Alex Ansary, Outside the Box.
Welcome back. Numbers to dial, 888-202-1984. Robert Duncan is our guest. Hey, Robert.
Hi, Alex.
Well, I'm glad you can return to the airwaves with me. You were on the show for a shorter length of time on Outside the Box TV last Thursday. Can you give us just a brief recap on some of the work that you've done in the past and some of the things that we're going to be talking about over the course of the next hour?
Sure. I have somewhat of an extensive history in high technology, both in civilian sector and military sectors, and have worked on incredibly high-tech projects such as EEG-controlled robotics, virtual medicine, telerobotics in medicine, tracking the Soviet nuclear submarine fleet using passive acoustical rays, and the list goes on. And we talked about last time an incredible weapon that is called mind control. It goes under many different names: electromagnetic weaponry, and it involves many different fields, including psychology, information theory, neural network theory, directed energy, non-lethal weaponry, and it goes under a lot of different acronyms and labels. And so we briefly touched on the potential of this to be abused. It should be considered the next weapon of mass destruction. It's currently being tested, and there's approximately a 35-year gap between what's released to the public and the capabilities of this weapon system. It is truly the end-all, be-all, as the military sees it.
Now, Robert, tell us a little about some of the other terms that we may or may not already be familiar with. We mentioned electromagnetic weapons, and we'll get into that because that's a heavily documented area of this. What else might we be familiar with? Well, when I mentioned I had you on, a lot of people asked about HARP as well on the side.
There's so many aspects to this weapon. HARP is one of the most famous due to the amount of energy that it puts out, which is about 10 gigawatts of energy. The cover story is it's used for over-the-horizon radar by bouncing the energy off of the upper 7 layers of the ionosphere back down. You can pick up missile launches and planes, and sure, that is what it's used for. It can be used for global communication. It's known as the integration of all of the military command and control communications and structures. But the real secret behind it, the real reason behind it, is something called directed energy. And it was not the first one to be built. It just happens to be the most famous and largest. So often people think in 1991, after the completion of HARP, that's when it all began. But you can track back these phased arrays, these giant phased arrays, to 1958. And there was even a smaller one built in 1948 as a prototype. And those were built in Puerto Rico and Brazil. One of the reasons that you would build them off of the mainland is because in order to bounce the signal, you need about a 20-degree angle from zenith. Otherwise, it goes straight through the atmosphere into space. And if you locate the arrays in Puerto Rico and Brazil, well, you can bounce it over the United States and monitor activity there. But there's been a whole slew of experiments done, basically since Project Paperclip, on how to affect the human mind over populations or target individuals with electromagnetic energy. Part of the reason they call it directed is how do you direct energy at a person, modulate that energy in some fashion to cause harm or damage.
So Robert, would you say then electromagnetic weapons is probably the most mainstream technological term that we want to stick with in defining the most of these weapons?
Yes, the language is very important. It's purposely confiscated by the changing names and vocabulary, but like I said, it goes under probably three pages worth of acronyms and descriptions. Electromagnetic encompasses everything, and that includes the ADS system, active denial of service, which people are now hearing about, which is basically a microwave oven with a door open and the focusing waveguide pointed at the enemy to cook them. And that's a very rough weapon. And really the interesting technology comes into play when you start modulating that signal that affects the electrical properties of the body. So how do you affect the nervous system? So that is a good name. It also goes under neurological weaponry.
Robert, so you had said that a lot of this started in the 50s?
The research, if you track it all the way back, in terms of trying to hack the human mind, trying to create programmed assassins, like Manchurian candidates, as well as brainwash them, create multiple personalities so spies can infiltrate other countries, pass polygraphs and MRIs, and then affect the brain in different ways. The research goes back before even World War II. There are a whole slew of technologies that currently are known. Sony, for example, has 4 patents using ultrasonics, and that deforms the ion channels of the neurons, causing a small amount of neurotransmitter release and modulation. And so they're hoping in another 5 to 10 years, they'll have video games that you'll be able to see right in your head that will alter your mood. You'll be able to feel pain when you shoot something, and all of it's virtual. And this is, you can look up the patents in the patent office. You can also apply direct electrical stimulation. Japan Telecom has what they call remote control human technology. And you wear these set of headphones, and with a remote control, it stimulates the inner ear that gives rise to balance sensations. And so the person walking wearing these can be controlled through their balance to walk left, right, straight, in any which way. It's quite unnerving, but it's the civilian equivalent of probably 30 years ago technology of the militaries.
Well, if that is possible, then I would ask the question, is it possible for that same type of mind control technology to be utilized through something known as the radio, Wi-Fi even, or the TV set? What do you think?
Subliminal technologies, again, span such a wide variety of capabilities that absolutely small amounts of electromagnetic energy can cause populations as a whole, statistical populations, to entrain on them. But in general, it requires emitters much more powerful than that to create a very specific kind of waveform. So it's unlikely that the technology is being used locally, but it's being done globally through the distributed grid of interconnected phased arrays in radio telescopes and communication centers.
Mm-hmm. Robert, we got a break. Stick with us. Those listening, 888-202-1984. You're listening to We the People Radio Network. I'm Alex Ansary.
Now you can enjoy the most delicious, freshest, and healthiest drinking water anytime, even while traveling, during outdoor sporting activities, and in hospital filtration environments such as local or national emergencies. The revolutionary Berkey Light removes pathogenic bacteria, cysts, parasites, and harmful or unwanted chemicals to below detectable levels. It also removes foul tastes and odors like that rotten egg smell of sulfide, and it reduces nitrates and unhealthy minerals like lead and mercury while leaving in the healthful and nutritional minerals your body needs. The Berkey Light is so powerful it can purify raw, untreated water from remote lakes, streams, and stagnant ponds. The Berkey Light is transparent and glows in the dark with its rechargeable LED lighting system, so it can be used as a night light or camp light.
Get the Berkey Light Purifier for only $279. Call New Millennium 888-803-4438. That's 888-803-4438, or order on the web at berkeywater.com. Not yet available in Iowa.
Hello, friends. Alex Jones here. I want you to imagine waking up one morning to find out you've been burglarized. An intruder has taken your personal possessions. Credit card numbers, social security cards, banking information, and more, all in the hands of a total stranger. What's worse is you realize he got it through your front door because you left it unlocked. Every time you walk away from your computer, leaving your internet connection on, you are virtually inviting hackers, criminals, and Big Brother to access your personal information. Put a stop to this right now with the Net 7 Network Security Switch from Net 7 Technologies. Turn your internet on and off with one simple switch. There's no software to load, and it's so easy to install. Right now, you can order your Net 7 Security Switch from Net 7 Technologies for only $39.95. For a limited time, receive free shipping with your order. Visit net7tech.com. That's net, the number 7, tech.com, and start protecting yourself today.
Since 1988, Herbal Healer Academy has been the global supplier of the finest natural medicines. We specialize in keeping you alive and healthy. We provide outstanding products like ECX, colloidal silver, olive leaf extract, oregano oil, and hundreds of herbals, oils, books, and educational materials. We have homeopathic detox solutions for chemtrails, radiation, MSG, and aspartame poisoning. We also train naturopathic healers via correspondence education. Why wait any longer? Go ahead and do it today. Sign up on the web and receive our new 120-page catalog and a current Herbal Healer newsletter free. Simply log on to herbalhealer.com and check out the online member testimonials and our hundreds of exceptional products. That's herbalhealer.com, your website for safe, effective, natural alternatives and education. That's herbalhealer.com.
Online and on demand, this is We the People Radio Network.
Let people know about this new network online, WeThePeopleRadioNetwork.com. There's a lot of guests that have been appearing on this network in the last couple of weeks, and a lot of new hosts. A lot of you are familiar with the book Spy Chips. Well, Catherine Albright has her own show that actually comes on right before Alex Jones on this network. And I listened to it last week, and she was also talking about the Monsanto issue earlier with an Oregon farmer, talking about how he labels his milk hormone-free, and the repercussions that Monsanto is trying to create for them based on what they are doing, which is, of course, hurting Monsanto cells. So, of course, you can learn a lot here on this network with a lot of information that you may not be hearing on the other shows because there isn't enough time to cover it. That's why there needs to be more networks like this instead of just a few. And with that, we'll go back to Robert. Robert, in terms of HAARP again, I just want to ask this. How much of this is completely separate from HAARP, just for people to understand that as a foundation in what we talk about today?
It's all an integrated system. I helped integrate the worldwide surveillance systems of the U.S. and to try to separate so much of it, you're just looking at subcomponents, and you won't get the bigger picture of the system that's been created to control populations, to be able to basically assassinate anybody on the spot. And that's sort of the ultimate goal. Dial-in lethality, they call it in non-lethal terms, that they would like to have that capability. So it will be used for crowd control, which there was a lawsuit in England of women who were protesting some military base. They said they got beamed by radio frequency weapons. They had all the symptoms of being exposed to radio frequency weapons. And it's is sort of the ultimate weapon. You know, you never have to send in troops. You can destabilize a country if you don't like the leader. You can assassinate them with plausible deniability, even though we passed laws to say the CIA cannot assassinate leaders of other countries anymore. Well, they just became more clever about the methods. And so it's a weapon system that needs to be understood by the public. It truly is the ultimate issue to the freedom of humanity, to the freedom of thought. Imagine if you can be brainwashed, mind controlled at a distance to even, something more devious than what's currently occurring on television through just jingles, advertising, etc., but direct neural stimulation that can implant very specific emotions and specific thoughts in people. In 1976, the Russians started beaming what's called a psychotronic signal over the U.S. population, and then we returned the signal. And the point of it was, according to Army intelligence, to calm our population, lull them into a slumber. And so these technologies have been around for a long time. The University of Moscow, along with MIT and other universities, have published many papers on how microwaves can affect neurotransmitter release. The U.S. Air Force accidentally released a paper on how they are using microwaves to affect neurotransmitter release. Now, if you modulate that correctly, since we're all humans, we have very similar neural pathways, you can induce white-hot anger. You can induce almost any emotion into a person who's targeted or a general population. Now, think of the potential for abuse. You can change voting probabilities and get somebody else elected. So the whole idea of democracy and freedom of thought and choice is really undermined by this weapon system. You can vote any way you think is right, but you don't realize we're controlling the probability of the population to vote a certain way. And it's very underhanded because people don't have their filters up. They can't say that's propaganda. It's being directly piped into the human mind.
Robert, what kind of history are you aware of in terms of congressional awareness, whether they have been notified of these things and have taken a look at it and then dropped the story, or those that have proposed legislation? Whether as small as it may seem, what progress have you seen since you've been looking at this?
Well, the Russians proposed an international treaty called the International Nairobi Treaty in 1976, and the U.S. government was the only one not to sign it, to ban radio frequency weapons. And it's because it's probably one of their favorite. There have been many examples throughout history. Senator Frank Church started what was called the Church hearings or investigations in the mid-'70s that exposed a lot of the psychological techniques that are being used in conjunction with this new technology of neurological weaponry. And those hearings need to be revisited. They were very telling about what the military, the Department of Defense, and the CIA was willing to do to us, their own people, the ones that they were supposed to be protecting, and instead used as guinea pigs or human experimentation. I personally was asked to be an expert witness, accompanied a former head of the Southern California FBI to 23 congressional offices last year to try to educate them on this topic. There's a lot of pushback because it is so sophisticated and it is so ugly. You aren't supposed to talk about the high technologies that are still in development, and as well as if they're using human experiments, that would sort of demoralize the population. So there's a lot of pushback to investigate it. And at the time, it was a Republican-dominated Congress. So the Democrats actually said to us, we can't investigate these weapons, the use of them on the public, until the Republicans are out of office, and we'll see if they follow through with the word. There's a push right now by a group, about 1,000 people in the U.S., to have the weapons exposed and talked about in the UN. Many people are going there to describe the weapons capabilities, how they've been used, both in war as well as, on civilians. But there's just so many aspects to this weapon, and the history of it is much greater than people realize. In 1970s, there was another group in the U.S. that claimed that they were targeted through mind control weaponry and the usual interrogation methods that are coming out of the testimony from the prisoners released from Guantanamo Bay are exactly the set of symptoms and scripts that were used on random American targets that were posted many years ago. So they haven't changed the techniques of interrogation and torture, but they're using them. And this is my particular field of research. I've interviewed over 650 people in this country in order to kind of get a complete set of tactics, scripts, technology capabilities. And it would blow your mind how far it's come. They truly can do remote interrogation and tortures that are exactly equivalent to what the prisoners in Guantanamo Bay are going through. So they're close to perfecting that. And the most interesting and sad part of my investigation is that it looks like they're choosing people that are the most nonviolent, the most happy-go-lucky, and trying to prove the power of their techniques using direct neural stimulation, psychological breakdown, brainwashing, programming techniques integrated with this new wireless technology to show that they can turn someone into the exact opposite personality. And that sort of proves the capability of the weapon system.
Robert, we'll be right back. When we come back, I want you to lay out the actual foundation of how these networks link together from HARP to other receivers, transistors, etc., etc. We'll be right back.
Government is best, which governs least.
Wake up and smell the fascism.
Being in government means never having to say you're sorry.
What part of unconstitutional do you not understand, George?
In today's world full of tyranny and injustice, sometimes it seems the only thing we still have is our freedom of speech. Exercise your freedom of speech by purchasing your choice of hundreds of different Liberty stickers, from humorous to serious, at LibertyStickers.com. LibertyStickers.com can even customize your own bumper stickers. It's time to stand up for what you believe. Invest in your freedom. Get your stickers at LibertyStickers.com for your family, friends, and community. Go to libertystickers.com or call 877-873-9626. That's 877-873-9626. And express your freedom of speech today. Call 877-873-9626. That's 877-873-9626.
It's no secret. Aluminum itself adversely affects the blood-brain barrier and is capable of causing DNA damage. Research has even shown that aluminum salts used in antiperspirants have detrimental effects. So why are you still using traditional deodorant? Well, there is an alternative, and it's called No-BO. No-BO eliminates the bacterial growth, which causes odor, and does not interfere with perspiration, which is important for allowing your body to expel toxins. There are no chemicals, aluminum, preservatives, or petroleum-based ingredients in No-BO. Just natural ingredients like grapeseed oil, arrowroot powder, silica, vitamin E, tea tree oil, and geranium. No-BO's job is to destroy the bacteria that causes the odor while soothing your skin. You can use No-BO under your arms, on tough foot odors, or for athlete's foot. No-BO is guaranteed 100% or receive a full refund. Visit no-bo.com to order. That's no-bo.com. Or call 850-723-8599.
Are you looking for a one-stop shop to find all your favorite books and videos? Look no further. Northern Voice Bookstore has everything you need. Hundreds of titles, from self-defense, survival, and financial freedom, to history, politics, conspiracy, and everything you need to know about the New World Order. You can order everything you need on the web 24 hours a day at northernvoicebookstore.com. Or send $2 for our latest catalog to Northern Voice Bookstore, Post Office Box 281, Wildwood, PA 15091. Northern Voice Bookstore offers a broad range of different perspectives and believes strongly that the American people need alternative sources of information in order to understand the society they live in today. You won't find a better selection of books or videos anywhere. So make Northern Voice Bookstore your bookstore. Visit us online at northernvoicebookstore.com or send $2 for our latest catalog to Northern Voice Bookstore, P.O. Box 281, Wildwood, PA 15091.
Online and on demand, this is We the People Radio Network.
Every house, even every radio station needs a blueprint. How to look at it, how to explain it to the layman, how this works, how something moves from point A to point B. Robert, this framework, this foundation, this system of death that we see exported worldwide. As I say that, I hear more cop sirens going down the street from my house. Is a system like this, if mind control is actually happening in this nation or around the world? What does the foundation look like?
It involves the apex of trillions of dollars of investment from the Star Wars Defense Initiative to even before that. In order to make it a global worldwide system, as I mentioned earlier, these phased arrays, by using the upper atmosphere as a mirror, can see around the curvature of the Earth. So you only need a few of them to cover the entire planet. Russia has 7 of them. The United States has about and allies have about 15. The entire Earth is covered in this global surveillance grid. It's also integrated into other traditional systems, but the ultimate goal is total information awareness, and that means tracking humans from their credit card transactions, what books they took out of the library, all the way to actually tracking what they watch on TV, where they drive to and walk. Everybody has a unique signature, just like any object. And so it's better than a fingerprint in terms of identifying you. Some technical terms are very long baseline interferometry, full spectrum radar. And let's say we could see in every spectrum of electromagnetic energy. And right now, of course, our eyes can only see in a very small, limited set. You would see yourself surrounded, bathed in all colors. And these colors, just like the clothing you wear, will give off a certain reflection, and we can identify people by their clothing. The same goes for the human body, the head, and every organ in it. The technology originated out of all the investments we made into looking at the stars. Imagine, we have sensors so sensitive that we can see 3/4 away across the universe. These sensors, of course, are used for military applications. That's really why we made the investment. So all of these sensors that can see, like the Hubble telescope, all the way across the galaxy to other galaxies, to even finding planets that may have atmospheres similar to Earth, of course, are pointed right back towards us. And that helps one get a sense of just how sensitive these instruments really are. And another concept that needs to be understood is holography. You see it every day on your credit card. A hologram appears in a three-dimensional image. Well, that whole field of study is called interferometry, and it allows precise location of any ion densities and their temperature changes. Now, the brain itself, the nervous system, the very thing that makes up your soul, your information, is composed of electrical currents or ions in the body, and the density changes occur every time a neural event occurs. And this can be read as a temperature. Now, if you look under the capabilities of HAARP, which is declassified, it lists exactly all the sensor capabilities to detect ion changes, be it in the body or in an electric system like a computer or television. And initially, this was developed to reconstruct images on computer monitors, and they call it the Tempest standard. How much shielding do you need so that somebody a mile away can't listen to the electromagnetic frequencies and energies of a computer monitor, a television, and reconstruct it? Well, it's that sophistication has increased dramatically, and the human is just a machine, an organism of electromagnetic impulses, and can be decoded in a similar way to varying degrees. So to understand this system requires understanding of radar theory, astronomy, and artificial intelligence, signal processing, neurobiology, and the list goes on. So it's difficult for the layman to fully grasp the mathematics and physics in a few hours or a week. But with enough dedicated study, since this is the ultimate weapon, if you will, it's worth your time to learn more about it. The positive applications, which we aren't discussing here, are just as incredible. And it's unfortunate, just like all technologies, from fire to nuclear weapons, they can be used for good or evil, and generally evil is what we use it for first before it gets into the military hands. And I think it's truly time for the human race, the creators, the civilians, to have this technology. So I'm doing my best to do a technology transfer from the military applications to the civilian applications.
Now, Robert, we were talking about the total information grid. You were referring to it as this total information grid, and I was wondering, there are these Wi-Fi networks that are going up across American cities and Europe as well, on one level, provide free access to the internet, but it also has other applications as well, And I'm wondering if there is any tie-in with that. What tie-ins with that could be used for surveillance, whether it be through connecting and knowing where someone is through the use of their cell phone, or the use, if they have one equipped in their car, a black box, or anything else that contains RFID technology, for example. There are these Wi-Fi transmitter-looking things that are starting to be attached here in Portland, Oregon, where I live in the downtown area, above the traffic lights.
You said something that I thought was very brilliant and perceptive earlier before I came on, and that is, how can you legislate yourself into freedom? And it's true. More laws only restrict freedom, and they're very, very rarely taken away. And that's also similar to surveillance technology. We will only go one direction, and that is into more invasion of privacy. And these Wi-Fi networks, have the good uses of obviously letting everyone have access to the internet. But as you might imagine, they also feel that they need to control that. And you can buy equipment to intercept almost all communications. And there was a famous Walmart case where they were intercepting SMS text messaging that was in the news recently. And anyone can get their hands hold of this. Certainly, there are Big Brother issues that we need to be watchful of. And, given this sort of synthetic terrorist scare that it makes people want to give up their freedoms, they've also started a push for the military and DOD to control all the DNS addresses. So nobody on the internet can be anonymous and tell a story. They will know who you are. And this is worldwide. Certainly, there are other possibilities that we could speculate about. During the invasion by the English of the Falkland Islands, I believe it was, they were able to see, I may have gotten that wrong, it may not be the Falkland Islands, but from satellite, the stealth bomber can be viewed as a black spot from the background radiation of cell phones, because cell phones are pretty ubiquitous. So the stealth bomber is no longer stealth. It absorbs the frequencies and is lit up from the backlight of all these cellular networks. Well, the flooding of the electromagnetic spectrum through the wireless technologies may also have another effect on lighting us up, illuminating us, if you will. And there may be other capabilities there.
Robert, I'm going to stick with you we're going to have you with us for one more break, and give us an idea from what your research has uncovered, why this is happening, why they would want to control, why they would want this technology. All that much, much more. Stick around. Call us at 888-202-1984. We'll be right back.
The Bill of Rights protects every American's God-given right to keep and bear arms. Now that right is being seriously undermined as legally registered rifles are being confiscated in some parts of our country. If we're not careful, we may find ourselves with no right to own guns. And that's where Gun Owners of America comes in. Gun Owners of America is in Washington every day fighting for you to keep that right. Congressman Ron Paul has called GOA the only no-compromise gun lobby in Washington. You need to be part of this great grassroots group of activists who are keeping the heat on their members of Congress. Find out right now how you can join. Call 888-886-GUNS and get started receiving their fact-filled newsletters and action alerts. Call 888-886-GUNS or go to their webpage at gunowners.org and help make your voice heard in Washington. Make that call right now and call Gun Owners of America at 888-886-GUNS. Remember, it's not just about gun control, it's about control.
Great host, great topics, free speech at its best. This is We the People Radio Network.
And a lot of people are wondering themselves why this technology would be necessary.
It gets rationalized at different levels, depending where you are in the structure. And for some, it's simply a weapon that other countries are going to develop and have. We might as well have the advantage. We have to pursue it. Yes, it's against American values. That's one rationale. But if you look deeper into the strategy, there's no doubt that this is a game, a winner-take-all game amongst countries. And the U.S., if we still want to call it that, would love to have world domination. We are the strongest economic military power, and ultimately it's about control. And all wars, how do you mobilize the masses? How do you mobilize the culture or people to back a war? How do you get them to give up their guns, their arms? And it turns out that they're using sort of backhanded techniques to manipulate the opinions of people. And it took control of the mass news streams, a kind of filtering in order to mobilize the people. And you hear that in Bush's speech, like, we are unified and unity. And it's been used throughout history. Psychological mechanisms to control the masses, manipulation of belief systems in order to optimize a culture's productivity or force in the world. So mind control technology is the ultimate weapon, because really that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to force your culture on other parts of the world, ultimately for one world government that's unified. And it's not going to be freedoms in which it's unified. And this again is the ultimate technology or weapon. One of my professors, B.F. Skinner from Harvard, put his child in a box, raised them that way to see what would happen if somebody was not influenced by television or any other culture around them. Now, it's a very cruel experiment, but what came out of that is people's reality is created through the sample points surrounding them. If they don't see genocide or menticide, it's not happening. And so the emission, the lies of omission through the mass news media is far more damaging to our sense of reality and truth than even the direct lies from politicians or the Pentagon. Alex, are you there?
The superpower. Oh, did we lose some audio there? Okay, I apologize for that. Robert. Looks like we had a technical error. I was talking about how it seems that this is a Pandora's box to some degree that's been unleashed upon the world. One of the reasons why is we're talking about Russia having this technology or being a pioneer, at least to some degree, in the development of this technology, and China as well. So even if the United States technically was to stop all of its operations, Bush was elected out of office, and even if Bush was the cause of that, which we know it isn't, it's still going to continue elsewhere around the world. So what are we likely to see in terms of repercussions from the abuse of this technology in the next decade, in terms of psychological warfare tactics being used worldwide in the next conflict? I'm sorry. I guess we're going to break. We're going to break. I apologize, Robert. We'll keep you here for the next break, and we'll be right back in just a few. All right, welcome back. Robert, you have the floor. We had just gone over the possible misuse of this technology worldwide, possibly during World War III or something less desirable.
Well, according to my research, World War III has already begun, and it's happening in the minds of the people. It is psychological information warfare. It's about cultural warfare. And, everyone thought it would come with nukes, but it's a whole new technology, whole different game, and it's being played it's often called the silent war, the silent Holocaust, and it's because nobody is talking about it. So even if it were used overtly in conflicts, which there are reports that have come back through European channels about the use of radio frequency weapons for hypnosis and for putting it on a subliminal carrier radio wave on communications. That's typical. That's expected. We've done it World War I, World War II. But that it's being used worldwide in a sort of covert war and mission, that's what's disturbing. And people need to sort of wake up and learn about these technologies and demand answers. And until we do, it's going to be abused. It's going to lead to a dictatorship of some sort, the exact opposite of all American values. You can say anything you want, but you're going to be influenced and controlled to say that. We will eventually turn into human robots. And the irony is most science fiction writers predicted we would have robot slaves doing our vacuuming, doing our work, and we have unlimited free time to create and do what we want. And it's actually happening in the reverse. The humans are becoming the slaves, human robot slaves, and the machines are going to do the thinking. So it's called the technological singularity, where machines become smarter than mankind. And it's already happened, but most people don't know that. And only in the highest academic circles do people talk about it openly.
I wonder why they need a whole race of slaves sometimes, though. I really do. A lot of things are moving really quickly right now, Robert. Very, very quickly. And it kind of, the whole thing about the conspiracy theorist tinfoil hat wear, the whole stereotype they have. Isn't that actually, just on a side note, kind of an irony? Because tinfoil actually just magnifies any signals, doesn't it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? Oh,
have you ever heard the joke about the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist?
Oh,
basically?
yes.
And I read an article about 6 months ago.
Yes.
Where they were talking about how tinfoil magnifies the signal.
That's right. And
so it's
MIT did some research on this, a couple students and a professor, and they were just testing the theory of these conspiracy theorists. Aliens are beaming information to my head. And so it was somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but the research was quite real. And what they discovered was all these tinfoil hats that people had been talking about to try to reflect the signal, and it's actually a long-wave magnetic field, so it penetrates right through anyway, that the human body has resonances. The head, about 450 megahertz. The body in its entirety is about 80 megahertz. And it completely depends upon body mass, tissue type, shape. etc., that by putting a tinfoil hat on your head amplified all of these body resonances and made you act like an antenna. And so their final conclusion was that it's probably government disinformation agents that have spread this rumor that tinfoil hats will block you from mind control, radar, and if you're into the mythologies, evil alien abductions and that kind of thing. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's you have to be careful about the kinds of information you get. It may not be true and may actually be harmful.
Yeah, I would definitely say that is good advice. And other than mind control applications, I've heard of other side effects of just the way we live, Robert, having an effect on the environment. There was an article out, and I didn't look too closely into it, I'll admit, because there are larger stories that I would rather look at, but it was pertaining to cell phone use, making the planet more vulnerable on some level to asteroids. While that may be strange, in another story, they're wondering if technology or Wi-Fi or even cell phones may be the link that's causing beehives to collapse around the country. They're wondering why that is happening as well. And we've also seen strange activity with the birds. Is it global warming only, as some people say it is, or could there be a link between all of the radio waves of different types in existence today? I wonder sometimes.
There's no doubt there's a cover-up there. There are a lot of industries, very powerful lobbyists that obviously don't want people to believe that electromagnetic pollution is going to have an effect on the ecosystem, our health. While it's fairly obvious, just like chemical pollution, if you add energy to anything, it's going to increase cancer rates. It's going to have unpredictable effects on various species. And in fact, there's a whole field, very old, came out of Russia in the early 70s, again, all related to this technology. I think they call it radionics. And it was about healing the body, for example, by killing, if you have a bacterial infection, you can create a resonance, add energy to just the shape of that particular bacteria or its DNA. And so if you add energy just to that, you can cure somebody by eliminating the illness. And there's a lot of truth to that. That's directed energy. And so you have to imagine that there are so many effects going on by us increasing the heat, the energy across the spectrum around the Earth. And whether that's actually killing bees or not, I don't know. It's certainly a possibility and needs to be investigated. But the cell phone use that was a scare, again, about 10 years ago, caused the telecom stocks to drop in half when the research initially came out, that it increases the risk of brain cancer. While I think it's probably not significant compared to other risks in the environment of general pollution and just the dangers of driving in your car, it still is something to be considered because it was covered up. If you go back to the base research, it was substantial, and it's still true. But obviously, the telecom lobbyists would be very disappointed if people started to panic and use their phones less. But they have given a warning for children not to use their cell phones as much or to use one of those Bluetooth adapters because their skulls are thinner than adult skulls, and the brain absorbs more of the energy in the microwave band and can increase the risk of brain trauma and tumors, even though it's still fairly small. A cop who uses a radar gun actually has a 2% increase of testicular cancer, for example. It's not significant in terms of all of the other dangers that they face every day, but energy inherently will always add to the probability or risk of the biochemical machinery screwing up.
Well, Robert, I want to thank you for coming on, and that's a lot of good information, and it really makes you think because, well, it's not just technology. You can take a look at Monsanto and how that seed, which has a modified DNA, which has been proven to be unpredictable, kind of like these electromagnetic rays being unpredictable, having unpredictable health effects upon our health. I know that it's going to be a while before the population begins to truly understand the consequences of our actions and our ignorance over this technology, like the food that we eat from Monsanto. Your website again, and where people can learn more about your work?
Yes, I should have 3 books that I contributed to, published by the end of the year, a trilogy, Hacking the Human Mind and Designing Gods. And my website, that, again, is actually run by a consortium called the Mind Hacking Strategy Group, is www.thematrixdeciphered.com.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Alex. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Robert Duncan, thematrixdeciphered.com. Stick around, final segment.